By moving emotional, sexual, and spiritual energy through the different dimensions of our being, and by using the paradoxes that we are with the polarities and dualities that create our universe, we are learning to create an internal and emotional economy. Shall I say that again? By moving emotional, sexual, and spiritual energy through the different dimensions of our being, so the physical, mental, and emotional, or the heart, mind, and sex, or the third, fourth, and fifth dimensions. And by using the paradoxes that we are, so all of the conflicting truths and different perspectives, say between our inner masculine and feminine dynamics, the mature, immature, and shadow. With the polarities and dualities that create our universe, so seeing everything within ourselves reflected without, but within the constructs of universal law, we are learning to create an internal and emotional economy. An emotional economy is what allows us to flourish, as it is creating emotion. So it is creating energy, emotional energy, that is transferable into other actions. It's far simpler when we don't think about it and just allow it to happen. But this is an educational course, so some thinking on the subject is allowed. In an emotional economy, we learn that bouncing between happy and sad can only work for so long before the mundane familiarity means polarized emotions lose energy and become neutralized, or they become manic and move into a bipolar experience of unbearable extremes. So just like an economy, we need a third energy involved in the system to create change and stimulate growth. And often this third energy will not be logical or fit into societal norms or be the ideal scenarios of our life. The multidimensional concepts taught in this course help us create exponential growth in a balanced and holistic way, developing all of our bodies while putting our darkness and negativity to good use. The polarity framework and shadow work is one method to tap into the negative, immature, darker and shadow aspects of our consciousness that allows us to trigger exponential growth within our emotional economy in a non-harmful and healthy way. By avoiding suffering, we avoid exponential growth, or said another way, we avoid depth. So one key to exponential growth is learning to enjoy our suffering, is to find an act synonymous to or similar to suffering where we actually find pleasure instead. This is why some people have sexual kinks, while others love sad or horror movies, and some live for adrenaline and extreme sports. Transforming negative experiences and emotions into positive vibrations is the foundation of maintaining an emotional economy. In asking yourself how your emotional transference works, what works for you in emotional transference, will lead to you creating a thriving emotional economy, one with exponential growth. Unfortunately, no one can just give you this answer. You need to discover it for yourself. By giving more consciousness to what we do, we are able to make better decisions in how we choose to manage our emotional economy. And for nearly all of us, it's going to involve some shadow. Thus, self-acceptance and self-understanding is needed to not fall into self-loathing. In relation to sex, one of the biggest turn-ons for many is the desire to create a baby. And of course, for some, the fear of this can equally turn them on or off. It all depends on your individual makeup in relation to the person you are with. From an uneducated, biological perspective, having a baby is the only sexual act that is not kinky or perverse, as the biological purpose of sex is reproduction. But as we learn more about the body, we learn that sex, or at least our sexuality, can have very positive impacts on our health and our body. But if you don't want to have a baby, but do want sex, then from an old school biological perspective, you're basically a pervert. Whoever you are and however you want to live, beyond the primal part of your brain urging you to reproduce, it's wise to develop your sexual fantasies beyond reproduction, as it will give you so much more energy. Another way to work with your emotional economy and shadow that is not doing harm. Thus, selling sexiness and increasing positive emotions is selling renewable energy. No one can tell you exactly how to keep your energetic and emotional economy turning. It's a little like the financial economy. It is a complex con. We need to work with our mind and our mental programming to keep enough diversity in what we love and enjoy. Enough diversity so that we can create the abundance needed to create more diversity. Being angry can help you. I find a little eccentric and crazy is best. Loving too much and loving too hard, flirtatious, funny, childlike and innocent are all qualities that will increase your emotional wealth and happiness. But at the same time, we need to find truth. We need to see universal law at play. Universal law is the orchestra of our life. For many, the greatest sexual excitement is found in our shadow and more taboo desires. This is okay, but we need to ensure there is balance followed by growth, so the programming of our mind, adding to and changing what gives us sexual energy and how we increase it, and eventually sublimating it to the third eye is a very wise thing to do. Walking a spiritual path, even a tantric path, will eventually lead to celibacy for most people when truly followed, and this is fine. But if you believe in living multiple lives, then it might take many lives to get to celibacy. Until we make the shadow healthy and learn to transmute and sublimate our sexual energy, many of our sexual desires will remain unconscious to us, including the healthy and lighter ones. If we have too few sexual fantasies and desires, then it may be worth creating new ones in order to transmute, alchemize, and sublimate more desires. This is possible as many of our sexual desires arise from trauma and then become addictions or habits through our repetition of thinking about them, coupled with the emotional transference that we create through our brain chemistry and personal psychology. Likewise, if you have so many sexual desires that you cannot maintain a spiritual practice or even think, as you keep losing yourself in emotions of lust, greed, selfishness, or abuse, thus are unable to enjoy the gifts of your emotional transference as you're addicted to the process of fantasizing, then it may be worth focusing on just one or two of your sexual fantasies intently until you are actually able to transform them into spiritual knowledge and insight, or at least a healthy fantasy you're excited to share with a lover. Then later, you can tackle the rest of your problematic or unhealthy fantasies and see what they have to teach you. When reprogramming your mind with new sexual desires, it can be very helpful to work with the polarity framework, whether building a sexual relationship with yourself or someone else. Once you are well practiced in opening your energetic body through Kundalini bodywork practices, bringing higher dimensional energies in and resting in higher orgasmic states, you will experience a much wider and diverse range of emotions. You will attract these energies in from different sources, outer sources, including unseen astral worlds and inner sources, realizing that you generate energies from within yourself and then project them out of yourself, eventually realizing that there is no difference between inside and outside, and that it is only our desire for experience that creates a difference, that creates an inside and an outside that creates separation.